What's going on, Sky Squad? We are back in the building. Back in the building. Y'all know we got to talk about Belle Collective and we got to talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville real quick. I just wanted to, touch base with y'all over this weekend so we can get into a little bit of a discussion about this reunion from Belle Collective and last night's episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Now, I know that if you follow me on social media, and I've been placing it in the links down in the description below, I got to place it in the link for today's video. But we did an interview with LATRICE Rogers from Belle Collective, and I did that in collaboration with Suave Magazine. So hopefully you guys got a chance to check that out. This week, I'll be interviewing Letitia Pearson from Belle Collective as well. And I'm thinking that's going to go out either on Thursday or on Friday. So we got a lot to look forward to this week. Okay. Now, we got to discuss what's going on with Belle Collective. And to me, this is insane. I don't know if you guys happen to see the reunion. Comment down below if you did. Let me know what your thoughts were about it. We're going to get into rating the episode and all that good stuff in just a second. But before we get into that, I want to know, where are you guys watching from? I want to know where you're watching from. I want to know what you're doing while you're watching. All that good stuff. Give me the details. Drop it down in that good chatterization. You know what I'm saying? Give it to me. I see some of my regular people up in the house, and I'm so glad you guys are here. Arlington, we got Richmond, VA. We got Georgia in the house, Toronto up in here, London, UK, working, Durham, North Carolina, New Orleans. Who else we got up in here? Louisville, Kentucky, Savannah, Oakland, Wichita, San Bernardino. I see all of my people, Cali, Maryland. Thank you so much for tuning in. As I always say, you guys could be anywhere in the world right now, but you chose to be here. And I am so eternally grateful and thankful that you guys are continuing to rock with me as we continue to grow this community of, reality TV show lovers and fans and all that good stuff like that. So let's go ahead and stage dive into Belle Collective because I want to know, okay? I want to know what you guys thought of this Belle Collective reunion. So in that good chatterization, I would love for you to give me what you would rate this episode. We got our first super chat. Thank you so much for this. Enjoying Sunday off in Fort Valley, Georgia. I've been a big fan of yours for years. Thank you so much for following. I appreciate you. Let's get into this Belle Collective first. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, what you guys rating this episode? I'm going to give it a 9, okay? Because Mary, like you, I'm confused. I am confused. The fashions is a 2 for Tracy, and the show is a 6. Okay, Lauren's a 9. 10. Okay, with Tish is a 9. We got a lot of 9s. 8.5s. Philly Diva's 9. 8 out of 10. Okay, yeah. Okay, so y'all with me, and I give it a 9 because I kind of felt like it was good. They had a good mix of drama, and I felt like the host kind of brought a little bit of drama herself. Okay. And then let's get into the fashions real quick. And I'm gonna tell you why I rate the episode the way that I did in just a second. The fashions, I felt like they put effort into their looks. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of all their looks. I did feel like the look that I liked the best, okay, and that is the host look, okay? Egypt's look, to me, in terms of her dress, it stole the show. Because every time I looked at Egypt, I didn't see Egypt's face. All I saw was the dress and a Gucci belt, okay? So to me, I feel like Egypt has to take best dress home because that's all I saw was her glittering dress. If you looked at the screen, you could not even see Egypt's face. I know she had on some red lipstick or something like that, but all I saw was the sparkle of that dress, okay? That was all I saw. Yeah, so that's how I felt about it. But, yes, I was speechless for just a second, okay? Now, the reason why, to me, I gave it a 9 and I did not give it a 10, I gave it a 9 because of a couple of things. One, I felt like there was a lot of confusion that was going on for me. You know, Letitia was talking about, and I'm gonna ask her on when I interview her, I'm gonna ask her what they was talking about because I didn't understand. I felt like there was a lot of talk about something that had happened in a blog that I don't know what they were talking about. And I felt like a lot of the viewers don't necessarily know what they were talking about. Now, I know a lot of people may know what they were talking about, but I just don't know. And I don't know what the subject matter was. So I was confused. Okay. And I felt like they kept tap dancing around whatever was said between LATRICE and Letitia. So Letitia appeared to have a bit of a chip on her shoulder throughout the entire night, but the issue of whatever was brought out into the public was never really discussed. Okay. And I get that it wasn't on the show, but I felt like if you're not going to talk about it and you're going to tap dance around it, then don't bring it up because we as the audience are going to be left confused. Yeah. So I could not figure out, and I understand that there was some stuff that came out about Marie, and that was the reason why she was upset. But I did not understand why Letitia was upset. Okay, I have not necessarily seen the stuff that came out about Marie. I'm not going to touch on that because you know that's it. I'm only going to talk about what was happening on the show because that's all I know from what I've seen. And so I wish they would keep the conversations to whatever is happening on the show. I understand that Marie wanted to address these things, and she did address them on her social media, which I will pull up in a second, but it will be in reference to the goddess links, what they call it, Bundlegate, okay? It will be in reference to Bundlegate, okay? So to me, that's why I was like, I don't know what y'all talking about. So I'm confused, right? And I think it was two scenarios that were being discussed. Something happened between Letitia and LATRICE, and then there was the whole situation that's going on with Marie that Kaylin also seems to be privy to as well. Because when Kaylin came out, she was basically calling Marie a fraud and insinuating that there were some things that she knew about Marie that the rest of us were not necessarily privy to. Okay. So there's that. So we have that bit of information as well. Now, the other thing that confused me was why, and a part of me understands this, and a part of me didn't get it. You know, Egypt seemed to get very upset that the ladies were going back and forth during the reunion. And a part of me felt like, I understand that she feels like she wants to be respected, but there's another part of me that feels like you as the host can't just really get up and just bounce out the scene when the ladies get too hot to handle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, imagine if Andy did that every time the ladies got into it, or any of the cast members, the guys is included, got into it real deep. But on the flip side, I also can't be mad that she is demanding that level of respect. I mean, maybe that's just her character. Maybe that's just her persona. And she's just like, you know what? I'm not here for this. Maybe that's it. I don't know what the terms were for her getting this gig, but it was interesting to me that she was just basically like, I'm not gonna deal with this. I don't know. It was the walking out for me. Because then Carlos had to come out and basically, you know, hey, y'all need to listen to her. But I was kind of like, I don't know. I just felt like your job is to kind of, I mean, you got to mediate the conversation, and you got to know that it's going to get heated, and you got to figure out a way to rein these, the cast members in without feeling like you got to bounce. Now, Rissa says, I want to pull up Rissa's comment. Rissa says, I thought it was perfect that she walked off. They're too old for that foolishness. So, and the thing about it is, I can see that point too. I can see both sides of it. But it was just an interesting choice that she made that we have not really seen ever in any of these reunions. And Andy Cohen done been pushed, by a cast member. So it was interesting. It was very interesting. But yeah, she was like, not today. No, y'all not gonna yell over me. Okay. So, and I do think that, and let me give her some props though, because I'm gonna tell y'all, a part of hosting, reunions and such like that appears to be that you have to read from a teleprompter. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys, reading from a teleprompter is not fun to me. Okay, I don't really like doing stuff like that. So kudos to every host that does these reunions and reads from the teleprompter, because it ain't something that I likes to do. Okay, so I got to give props for that. So those to me were the reasons why I felt like I gave it a 9 and not a 10, was because of the dialogue around whatever was going on. I kind of want to get an idea of, I would go point by point with each lady, but I really don't feel like it would behoove us to do that with the time that we have. So I just kind of want to hit the highlights. Obviously, there was the beef between Letitia and, LATRICE, which we really didn't understand. They didn't really state what that issue was, and I wish they would have just left it alone. There was the issue that Marie has had with, I guess, allegations coming out about her that Kaylin also co-signed. And the biggest beef was basically, Bundlegate. Okay. Now, for me, I felt like I liked that Egypt was basically like, Marie, I mean, she pretty much told Marie, your delivery was kind of foul. Do you think that you could have done that differently? And Marie is like, no. This girl is insecure and jealous of any other woman that comes around. And I feel like what I didn't like from Marie in this moment was that, versus answering the question honestly, she couldn't even own the fact that she came off abrasive. It was very abrasive, especially in front of a group of women. And her excuse was that, well, I felt like they was talking about the hair. The problem with that statement is that prior to even going to the event, Marie had already told us, when she was with her crew preparing for that event, that she was going to confront LATRICE while she was there. Okay. Now, the other part of that was, she stated that the reason why she wore the hair, because that was another question too. And we asked that question on this channel. We said, I think a couple of us asked, well, why would you wear the hair that didn't turn out right, or whatever the case may be? Why would you even wear the hair there? And she says, she says something to the effect of, because of her experience with cosmetology, and I'm paraphrasing here, that she was still able to do a little something or other with the hair. Well, my thought is, I mean, I could have swore this could not be your only wig. I refuse to believe, because I didn't see her Instagram. This is not the only wig that you have from the goddess lens. So you had a choice before you walked into that room to wear, whether or not to wear that wig or not. Now, here's the other thing. There's a lot of talk about whether or not the wigs were switched. And she does, if you guys go on her Instagram page, she does do a pretty decent job of providing receipts, sort of talking about, who did the hair, or whether the hair was switched or whatnot. And to be quite honest with you, while the receipts are here proving that there are text messages, about the stylist saying that the stylist didn't switch the hair or whatever the case may be. To me, the bottom line is not whether or not the hair was bad. The issue to me wasn't whether or not the person had switched the hair or not. It wasn't about that. It was really about, if you didn't like the product, all you needed to do was A, not wear it, B, have a conversation with her. And to be fair, if she did want to have a conversation with her on camera, it could have been us. Let me pull this woman to the side. Let me pull her to the side and tell her, listen, I got the hair from you, and it just, honestly, I ain't really feeling it like that. I mean, this didn't turn out the way that I thought it was. That would have probably been more well received. And I think it could have shown, how to handle those types of situations amongst two business women. But instead, I felt like what she chose to do in that moment was she chose to handle it on camera in a very abrasive way. And I felt like it automatically put LATRICE on the defensive, and it just wasn't the way to do it. It wasn't the way to do it. And I just kind of feel like, all this back and forth about did the stylist switch the hair or not, at the end of the day, the text seemed to prove that the stylist claims that he or she didn't. So to me, it's like, okay, but you still wore the hair. Why would you do that? That don't make no sense to me. Who gonna wear some hair that they don't even like? Okay, this ain't your only wig. Absolutely. That's how it felt. It felt like she was coming for her off the top. I agree with you, working hard. And, even when she did bring her some more hair, the situation is still going on. Right. Why do you need a stylist if you're a cop? I mean, listen, maybe she, maybe she doesn't really specialize in making wigs. Okay. I can get to that. I can get that. But still, you know how to zhuzh your hair up good enough, especially if you done worked in that industry enough to know how to. All them people that was at your house with you before the event, nobody could have done up anything to your head or to your hair so that you can feel like you look your best self. And you got the short hair, so you know how to rock it, right? I personally like her with short hair. I feel like it's a look for her. And I think she's a beautiful woman, and she doesn't even need that long hair like that. You know what I'm saying? Not that anybody needs it. I mean, you want it because you want to do something different. But I just feel like she got a look, and that look is memorable with the short finger waves or whatever they may be. So I just felt like it was she kind of did this to herself. You know what I'm saying? And then her attitude throughout the season, I feel like continues to get her into trouble. Love her storyline in terms of what's going on with her family and her business and getting that set up. But I feel like in this regard, I felt like she is the antagonist here. And I don't really like the way she's moving with the whole LATRICE situation. But that's all I got to say about that. The other thing that was kind of weird to me, and it was interesting because Antoinette spoke she was like, Marie does an amazing job of rewriting history. And I was shocked because I didn't know Antoinette was going to go that hard against Marie or whatever. When she said, I think she's very, very smart, I didn't know where she was going. And I was kind of shocked and taken aback. I was like, okay. So it appears that we have on one side of the couch, we have Letitia and Marie versus Antoinette and LATRICE. And then they bring out Kaylin. And I think that Egypt does a very, very good job of explaining to Kaylin exactly why her reaction to that situation was wrong, okay, and disrespectful. And I think that she did an amazing job of that. But you could tell Letitia was not here for Kaylin at all. She was like, she was done with it. She basically called her a Karen, and I mean directly to her face. Okay, and that was that. So you know, it was interesting, and then we get the reveal from Kaylin that she apparently knows some stuff about Marie, but we didn't. But she is refusing to say. Now, these be the times where I feel like, listen, I personally am never about the idea. I don't want to ever see somebody else's, career tank, or I don't want to see nobody lose no money or have nothing, no food taken off their plate, right? So in my experience, if I were on that show, or if I'm on a show, and even if I know something damaging, and I've been in this situation before where someone has said something negative about me, and I've known something damaging about that person, I've never said the damaging information, even despite the fact that they may have said something very damaging about me. I'm not going to do that. I mean, and that's just my personal code. I feel like that's a G code type of situation. But what I'm also not going to do is, if I'm not going to actually say what it is, I'm not even going to bring up the fact that I know something about you. So to me, when Kaylin did that, I was kind of like, girl, what's the point? If you're not going to say it, if you're not going to be bold enough to say what you know in this accusation, then don't tempt the audience. Don't tempt me with some details that we feel like we missing. And now y'all still tap dancing around this whole situation. Lola, thank you for the super chat, who says Kaylin has pulled the Karen card all season. I don't like that. I don't like stuff like that. But that's just me and my take on the situation. Then somebody asked if I could talk about, Timber and, her and the egg situation. I don't really, it's difficult for me as a man to kind of speak on, the situation with her and the eggs and the embryos, because I feel like, and granted, I don't know how old she is, so I don't know how that whole situation works. I don't even know how it works given, I mean, does he have to do something to then fertilize those eggs, and then is she going to carry them? I'm interested, and I kind of feel like there's so much history with her and this Damon guy that it's interesting to me that they're not any further along in their relationship other than potentially being co-parents. I don't understand it. Does she want to be with this man, or does she want to just simply have a baby by this man? I think that's the thing that I'm not understanding with her. What is it that you want? Is it just that you want him to be the father of the kid, or do you want to build a life with this man? To me, that's where I'm kind of confused. And I think, while I know you're never supposed to ask a woman her age, because I grew up in the South and that's just what I've always learned, I think knowing her age would also give me a better context for, how urgent, this situation was for her with regards to these eggs and having a baby and where she's at in her career. I think it would just give me a better perspective of her mindset and where she is if I knew that, because it seems as though she's operating under the mindset of this is it's a ticking clock, right? And she's got to do so many things all at once and strike while the iron's hot. So I just kind of want to know a little bit more in depth about whatever it is that she's going through. And I think the age thing, while it is not a factor, I think it would help me explain to me what her motivations are a little bit better. Okay. Someone says she's in her 40s. Okay. 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 Yeah, Toya says she wants the baby, but not the man. That's how it comes across. So I don't know. I want to switch gears real quick because I want us to get into Love and Marriage Huntsville real quick, because I got to get your thoughts on that. Comment down in the chatterization if you watched Love and Marriage Huntsville last night, and then what you would rate the episode. Thank you, Queen Bee, who says Tambra says she's in her 40s in one of her confessionals. Okay. And the older you get, the harder it is. Okay. Comment in the chatterization if you watched Love and Marriage Huntsville and what you would rate this past episode. Interestingly enough, I watch whenever I'm watching Love and Marriage Huntsville, there's never a scene where I'm bored. I just feel like there's so much value in much of the episodes. So I'm going to give it a 9.5. It was really, really good. It was so good. And I want to hit a couple of highlights before I get to the main event. The conversation with, Marceau telling Letitia that she was wrong for, sorry, a comment caught me off guard. No, the conversation with Marceau and Letitia I thought was really good. He told her exactly what I felt like the truth was in that situation, is that while she may feel like, Melody is lying, I do agree with something that Kimmy said. Both of them are going to be, both Melody and Letitia are going to be, they're never going to budge from their points of view. Each one is going to think that the other one is not being truthful and that their version of the truth is what is accurate. But that's not always the best way to move on. And if Letitia is invested in moving on, then she's just going to have to meet Melody where she is and keep it pushing. Now, does that mean that you trust her with your secrets anymore? No, it just means that I'm going to see where things go. And we're going to keep it pushing and move beyond the mess of the past and not rehash it. Because y'all know just as well as I think anybody else does, I agree with you. Marceau is the MVP of this season. Okay. And honestly, I thought the same thing too while I was watching it. And I'm going to get to another point. When he had the scene with Melody, and he was basically kind of just, kind of riding her and he was really kind of poking at her in a fun way. And I felt like she wanted to be hard in that scene, but I felt like she couldn't even really be hard because she really wanted to laugh. Like, I felt like she wanted to laugh in that scene so bad, but she was trying to keep up that hard exterior, which I'm sure she's gotten from having to deal with Martell on this show. But I also kind of feel like, you couldn't help but laugh at him in this scene. And I just felt like he brought that comedy and he kind of broke down her barriers a little bit, even though she didn't want him to break down those barriers. Queen Fab, I agree with you. He was one of the people that I disliked the most when I first started watching the show, but actually watching it now in this season, he's one of my favorite people on this show. And it's so crazy to me. Ooh. Woo. Yeah, it was kind of like, it felt like it felt a brother sister type of situation when I was watching it. I was just like, you know what? It almost felt like he was being a little flirty, but I don't know. He definitely grew on me too, Ashley, Aisha. I definitely agree with you on that. So we have Kimmy going to visit Mel, and Kimmy finds out the truth of the matter, which I'm sure Kimmy already knew, that Martell that the rumors were true that he does have a baby on the way. And I'm sure it was just, that was a scene that was filmed to get confirmation from Mel, and they needed to film something together, and they needed to also recap, the events from the girls' getaway day or whatever that Melody ended up leaving as a result of her argument with Letitia. Okay. So we got that. The other scene that I thought was interesting was two scenes that are combined. Black Lounge. Okay. Now, Marceau tells Letitia that he wants to hire Jalen, which is Kimmy's son, to be the general manager of the lounge. However, okay, Jalen has never been a general manager before. LaTisha wants to bring in someone who has experience to help guide Jalen in this endeavor. But Marceau is like, no, I had to come into the game with basically no experience, and I learned my lesson. But at the end of the day, Jalen is not Marceau. And so I just kind of feel like I don't like how he still disregards LaTisha's ideas, because to me, I felt like what she said was valuable. And I get that he wanted to probably keep him involved and involve him in the show a little bit more, and may have been doing that as a favor to either Kimmy or to Maurice. But I also feel like there's some value in what LaTisha said in terms of getting him up to speed by bringing in somebody who is, more experienced for a short period of time as a consultant. And that won't be so top heavy as Marceau said it in the episode last night. And then when he did, in fact, bring Jalen in, and Jalen is like, well, you're putting me on the spot right now. But I'm like, Jalen, do you want this job or nah, bro? Like, what do you want? I mean, this is your opportunity, because these are standard questions that you would get in any interview. And I feel like Jalen has been around the cameras long enough to be able to know how to finesse that scene and give the answers that Marceau was looking for. So I kind of just feel like Jalen seems a little bit unprepared for it, but I got to give Marceau props for giving him the opportunity, although after looking at the way that chef had brought out the meal. Now, listen, the chef's food was looking good, okay? But the presentation had needed a little work. And so I'm glad that they brought in an expert to, help zhuzh up, the way that the plates were looking. And I really liked the way Marceau, really just talked about wanting to give the customer the best experience possible. I really, really liked that a lot. The last thing that I want to say is, the scene, first of all, the scene where Melody was ambushed by Martell at her friend's house. Okay, now I don't know who these friends are, because I don't know if we ever seen them before. I hadn't seen the wife before, I don't think, but we had definitely seen the husband before. And he's the one that be, working with Martell and giving him all the advice and, working with him on business. Now, to me, let me tell y'all something. These ain't no friends of Mel's, okay? Because if they were, they would not have set her up like that, okay? They set her up, and then when Martell dropped them bombs on her, they did absolutely nothing to stop them. They did nothing to stop Martell from lighting Mel up by basically, I mean, he was so disgusting in this scene when he's talking to her. And at first, I was like, okay, Mel. First mistake is I would have walked away. As soon as I knew Martell was there, deuces, y'all, I'm out, okay? But maybe she knew she needed to have the scene with him for the sake of the show. I don't know. When she did get there and he starts to stirring her up, you could see him starting to stir her up by, starting to get all rowdy and rah-rah, talking about how she wasn't fulfilling his needs and this, that, and the third, talking about how it was his house. And, that's why the one that he's, notice he said the one that he's with. He used the way he talked about that girl. He was talking about her in present tense. And I don't know if any of y'all picked that up. He didn't say she was fulfilling me. He made it seem like she was doing it now. Okay. And he made it seem like he was still with her. So in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm Melody and she's sitting there silently, okay, she is sitting there silent as not saying nothing, not letting him get to her. And finally, he really starts going off and getting disrespectful and just talking about all these other things that she wasn't going to be fulfilling him. And that's when she gets up and she throws the glass at him. Now, in that moment right there, and I said it last night when I was watching this, when she threw that glass at him, she should have walked off. That was her moment right there, because every time, and I always say this, Melody Holt always loses it when she gives Martell exactly what he wants, and that is an emotional reaction. He's one of those types of guys that will pick and prod at you when he know he been in the wrong, but he gonna try to make you feel like you was the person that wronged him, even though he was the one who did everything wrong. This man been having an affair on her for what? 2, 3, 4, 5 years, however long it's been. And all of a sudden she's the problem. Okay. She's the one who wasn't fulfilling his needs and stuff like that. It's just so crazy to me how he gaslights her. And I hate that she gets so emotional every single time he does it. And I know a lot of us have been in relationships like this before. We all been in the situation. And I feel like that's why it makes so many of us it gets so many of us incensed, because we didn't seen that type of person before. We didn't been in that type of relationship before. But it just, it boggles my mind that she has not learned enough yet to just, you know what, I'm gonna let him say whatever he need to say. I'm gonna let him do whatever he need to do. But when she threw that glass, I'm gonna tell you right now, she should have just walked off. Instead, she get to screaming and hollering too. Okay. But I mean, I can't blame her, I guess, because at the end of the day, I'm sure there is still some kind of love there between the two of them. But for real, I was so mad at the couple that invited them over there, because I was like, Mel, these people are not your friends. And to be quite honest with you, when I left that house, I would tell them F you, and then I will block both of their numbers so they can't never get in contact with me again. If y'all want to film with somebody, y'all film with Martell, because y'all not going to set me up like that ever again. That was crazy to me. That was so crazy to me. And they didn't bother to help her at all. And the dude just sat there and let Martell talk to her like that, knowing that they pretty much set her up to have a dialogue with him, and they did absolutely nothing. That was just so crazy to me. It was so crazy. Corey, I was mad. I'm not even gonna lie. I was mad. I was literally like, I was cursing in my head, to be honest with you. I was. Jasmine said the divorce is finalized. Ooh, I guess. And I think we're gonna see a little bit of that. Oh, it was her. His name was Kris. Yeah, Kris let Martell disrespect Mel. All for a check. All for a check. Yep. And the wife says she expected him to check Martell. And then he just right, Tay, sat there looking all weak and spineless. And I'm like, bro, like you ain't no man, right? Because ain't no man gonna sit there and I get that he might be cooler with him, but at the end of the day, that was at his house. Okay. So you set the parameters for this situation, and you made the setup happen. So now that he's disrespecting her like that, you got some kind of obligation to be like, bro, no, this is not why we brought you here. This ain't cool. And you need to take a step. You need to take a second. You need to take a second. So, but yeah, I had to jump on the line with y'all today and just discuss these shows from this weekend before we get into the work week and get into the Atlanta Housewives and any more Basketball Wives. We had got to talk about these own shows because they was popping this weekend. The preview for next week for Love and Marriage Huntsville looks just as good and crazy, and I'm excited about it. I don't even know how many more episodes we have left, but we're going to keep on watching. It's Sunday, y'all. Make sure you guys get out and enjoy the weather wherever you are. Stay safe. And I'm going to hit y'all in the next video. And I want to thank y'all so much for stopping by today. I appreciate you. Much love to y'all, and I will catch you in the next one.